All right, boss man. Folks, Philip Naiman here, Firing Line Radio Show with Sean Flynn. This is the B-roll section. This is not going to be on Saturday's broadcast. This is the top stuff that I only send to gun aficionados.
Very nice.
All right, so this will be on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, all of the fun stuff. So, Sean Flynn.
Yes, sir.
Why should we vote for you against that communist, gun-grabbing, no-good, heathen Pete Aguilar?
Thank you for making my statement. The simple answer is I'm not Pete Aguilar.
Yeah. How about no repeat? That should be your slogan.
I like that. Yes, no repeat. Yes, stop Pete, no repeat.
So, well, anyway, give us a little meat and potatoes here.
Sure. Okay, so let's begin with Pete Aguilar. Literally was a lobbyist for big financial firms and credit unions. The only reason he's in Congress is they stood up a PAC just for him and put nearly $250,000 in it. And now he does their bidding. Like last year, he's on Appropriations, which is a very powerful committee.
Yep.
And the only piece of legislation, he didn't author a real piece of legislation. He put a rider, right, a little amendment thing onto a bigger bill. And it was to exempt his buddies in that special interest group from government regulations that were meant to protect consumers. And so that's the kind of machine politician you've got.
But wait a minute. He was one of the drafters of the Occupy Wall Street version in Redlands called the Occupy Redlands. He drafted that document, and then with Bob Gardner, I believe, and possibly some help with some other people there, communist skills. But how could he be taking the meeting of that resolution was not to take money from corporate interests for political purposes and not to take special interest money from unions. He wrote it, signed it as mayor of Redlands, attaching the little city of Redlands to that great Occupy Wall Street poop in the street movement. How does he square that up?
Well, he doesn't. It's just a con, right? He's conning both the left and the right. This guy's just in it for himself. But as you rightly pointed out, he proclaimed this thing where we shouldn't take money in politics and take special interests, and he does all the time, right? He's their guy. And so what's interesting about this is he's actually alienated because of exactly the hypocrisy you're saying. A lot of people on the political left, the hardcore progressives, the Bernie Sanders types, they are dead set against him now. No.
Okay. Fire in the hole, man. We're ready to go.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
We're ready.
Here we go.
I hope.
Good. Bad. I'm the guy with the gun.
Hello, folks. Welcome to another edition of Firing Line Radio Show. This is Philip Naiman. This is the pre-election edition. And why? Because pre-elections matter. How's that?
Sure. Yep, mail ballot's about to go out. Mm-hmm.
And very, very important stuff. Folks, Philip Naiman, Firing Line Radio Show, here with my special guest at this segment, Sean Flynn. Sean Flynn is running for Congress. You met him at Bullseye Sports Guns and Ammo in Riverside. Not his area, but he was able to come down there and do some interviews there. He is a Second Amendment advocate and supporter.
Mm-hmm.
He is a conservative economic kind of guy.
Yep.
We haven't got into social values yet, but compared to who he's going up against, I'm just going to guess it's okay.
Yes. No, absolutely, yes.
So, Sean, it's the 31st.
31st, like Baskin-Robbins, 31 flavors.
That's right. So he's the 31st district, which basically goes from Rancho Cucamonga, San Bernardino, south to Redlands, and west to...
It's got Loma Linda. So, yeah, basically follow the 210 freeway around the foothills in San Bernardino County.
Yeah.
That's right.
This is a very special district that was gerrymandered in 2010 horribly to allow the current occupant of that congressional district to actually win. This district historically, prior to 2010, this gerrymandering horrible thing that they did in California, prior to 2010 was fairly conservative. We had a conservative, Jerry Lewis, a semi-conservative, not fiscal conservative.
Always compared to what? Okay.
Exactly.
Compared to what?
Not a fiscal conservative, but we had Jerry Lewis there for about 155 years, I think he served.
It was like 38. It was 36, 38 years. That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Gary Miller, who stepped into it and stepped all over it. Then he unfortunately backed out at the last minute after this gerrymandering happened, which allowed Pete Aguilar to get elected. And he was the mayor of Redlands. So let's talk about who your opponent is so we can set the table here. Your opponent, well, I'll let you talk about it.
Well, appointed city council, then appointed mayor.
But where was he working prior to his appointment?
Oh, a lobbyist. He's a lobbyist for big financial firms, and they stood up a political action committee just for him and put $200,000 in it to get him started.
That big financial firm, did it have a name?
Well, so the firm he worked for and was a lobbyist for, and he had other clients too, was Arrowhead Credit Union, Arrowhead Federal Credit Union here.
Right.
And in a 6-month period, I believe, this is back around the financial crisis, Pete was government affairs guy and in charge of all their political donations, but they got fined by the FPCC, I think about $100,000 for failing to report over 100 donations all around the county. And that would have been under Pete Aguilar's purview as the government affairs guy there. And then they, of course, went insolvent and had to be taken over and rescued by the feds, and also on Pete's watch. But after doing such a great job, the Credit Union Association, stood up a PAC for him, put $200,000 in, and ran him for Congress.
Because he did their bidding.
Sure looks like it.
Yeah. Now, he was also appointed to the Redlands City Council.
Yes.
And that's because I think Pepler moved on and there was an opening. So Redlands, in a bizarre way the city is run, they have elections. So they run 3 people for city council, all right? Maybe there's 2 openings, 3 people run. And so if one person retires, what they don't do, which I feel they should, is they should simply say, well, whoever came in second should have that seat.
Yep.
No, not in this fiefdom. We don't care what the people want. We're going to pick one of our buddies in here and appoint them. We saw that with this guy. We saw it with, was it Jeff James or somebody else? Twice he got appointed. And then they had it's ridiculous. Just let the people vote, but instead they're pushing their will upon that. So he's part of that cabal that was involved, and then he decided with the Gary Miller fiasco to jump into that congressional race.
Yes. Yeah, and it was an open seat in 2014 because Miller pulled out unexpectedly 3 weeks before the filing deadline.
Yeah, say that again.
Yeah, Gary Miller pulled out unexpectedly. Was it 2 weeks only? You held up 2 fingers. I thought it was two weeks before the filing deadline.
What's the difference?
Yeah, both parties were caught off guard, and the person who ended up winning was the one who could call his credit union special interest buddies and say, hey, open up a PAC for me, put the money in.
And he won by 300 votes.
Yep.
300 something.
Yep.
Yeah, so he barely had a squeaker of an election. The California Republican Party put up 0 money.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't help his opponent at all. And we could have kept that. It's amazing the stuff that you are fighting up against. So that's the background. Now, this guy's gone to Congress. He's voted liberal on every single thing.
Well, he's also, dramatic about it, sit-down protests against guns and laying on the floor of the House of Representatives to get TV time, right? This is a person who, it'd be one thing if he was principled, and had social norms and standards about how to advance his ideas. But this is someone who's a publicity hound and climbing the reins of power and willing to do whatever it takes.
He also, I forgot to mention that, as mayor of Redlands, he signed up with Bloomberg's Mayors Against Guns. So not only did he sign the little city of Redlands to occupy Wall Street, but then he combined them into Mayors Against Guns. They did a gun buyback at Stater Brothers. The money came in, it bought Stater Brothers gift cards. He had 10 to 14 police officers stationed there that day. I happened to be there. Stationed there that day to, and guys in SWAT uniforms for this gun buyback, which was basically a bunch of elderly citizens getting rid of things they didn't like. Or guys like me who had junk that was busted, we couldn't fix it, we got $100 for it. Also, I brought an FFL to that, and we purchased 16 firearms.
I assume functional ones.
Great collector's items, man. It was amazing. It was amazing stuff. And the buyback was only offering $100, so we said, hey, you want a $100 gift card from Stater Brothers? You want $100 cash?
Well, I think you're right. This whole idea about gun buybacks, as we all know, they're a complete failure wherever they're tried. For exactly the reason you said, which is you do not have MS-13 showing up with AK-47s and Uzis and MP5s trying to trade them in, right?
Right.
What you have is ordinary people who never committed crime.
This stuff was in the attic. It's rusted shut.
That's right.
That's most of what we saw was absolute junk, or Bowers 25s. I mean, just junk. And these guys they're kind of giggling like, yeah, man, I don't want this piece of junk. Let's go get him $100. So,
but then Pete goes through this charade, this pantomime of being against guns and doing something about it. But of course, he knows just as well as we do that this is going to do absolutely nothing for the gun problem. It's just a bunch of theater. They should be mad at him too because if
they should.
Yeah.
But let me help you on some vernacular here.
Okay.
There is no gun problem. We have a violence problem.
Okay.
And the reason we have a violence problem is criminals are allowed to skate. In California, as you know, Jerry Brown just signed a law that removed all mandatory sentencing for the use of guns in a crime. All the gun bills he's signed the last 8 years have all had to do with possession by a solid citizen. Now is going to be in trouble if they don't comply. None of them increase the penalties for the misuse of a firearm. So just like the Mothers Against Drunk Driving thing, where they made drunk driving so painful that everybody Ubers or has a designated driver. If you had a drunk driving arrest, it would destroy you, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a glass of wine, somebody else is driving. You're not going to deal with that. That's modified our behavior. If it was the same thing with the firearms used in a crime, if the penalty for doing that was so egregious, which it should be, they simply would not do that. Criminals are cowards. They're not stupid. Some are stupid. Some are stupid and cowards. But the majority of them, if they know that if they use a gun in a carjacking, they're going to get 20 years, they won't be using a gun.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right, and this reminds me, just coming from it, from the perspective, and I teach at a university, so I'm surrounded by people on the left and very far left all the time. Jerry Brown and the people who've been controlling our gun policies now and the penalties for decades now, they're coming at this because all they want to see is racism in the world. And they say, all right, well, here we've got some laws, and if there's one group that is getting arrested at a higher rate than another group, then we got to get rid of all those laws, even if it means public safety is compromised. And even this gets to the fact that Trump's approval rating among African Americans is up to 35%, right? All-time high for Republican.
From 6 to 35.
But they know Trump actually wants to protect everyone, including African Americans, and they've been sold a bill of goods because who gets victimized most in any racial group? You get victimized by people of your own racial group. That's whether you're white or you're Asian or you're black. And so when you say, hey, we're going to have tougher laws about using guns and violence, that's actually protecting people, right?
Yes.
And not across racial lines. That's protecting people.
It's protecting people across racial.
Yes, across everybody. Yes.
Because it's the action that is penalized.
Yes. Yes, and Trump gets it, and I think African Americans are increasingly seeing the kind of pantomime stuff that Pete Aguilar likes to do. Let's do a gun buyback, or let's stay down on the floor of the center. Or Jerry Brown, let's get rid of all the gun laws, right? Penalties for misusing. That actually makes people less safe and gets people killed.
Unfortunately, you are right. Folks, this is Philip Name with Sean Flynn. Sean Flynn for Congress?
Yes, that's right. SeanFlynnForCongress.com.
SeanFlynnForCongress.com. Give him some money, give him some time. We'll be right back with another segment after this.